And to me, it's emblematic of what EA Festival is about. It's about strapping yourself in, getting exposed to something on a subject which you thought you would never be interested in or of which you were entirely ignorant, but if presented the right way, and that is very much the philosophy of QI, the so-called game show that John founded and created. That is the same philosophy which animates a lot of John's TV work, or specifically QI, and a lot of his life for that matter. So what we're going to do now, for those of you who don't know John, apologies. Besides saying that he's the godfather of EA Festival, it's unlikely that you don't know what John does, but just in case, he's the creator of Spitting Image, Blackadder, and QI. Royal Mail just issued a series of stamps to commemorate the cultural iconicity of Blackadder, the TV series. He has won 10 BAFTAs, which is only one less than Dame Judi Dench. And so, I mean, it's an embarrassing litany of gigantic accomplishments. Now, this is literally completely unscripted. John has no idea what I'm going to ask him. He has appeared at EA Festival a few times, both as moderator and special guest. So what I wanted to do, it was tell John nothing about what we're going to do, and we're going to try a new format because it'll be rapid fire and hopefully very fun. Okay, so these questions can be answered. I have literally about 10 questions. They're not connected. I'm not going to try to segue elegantly between them, where I'm just going to basically shoot them at you like a machine gun. Okay, so, and by the way, we have a special surprise at the end. Okay. So now, John, you're like a legend. You have just one huge achievement after another. I mean, like very few in the entire industry. What accounted for your success, do you think?
Pass.
And sorry, what did you say? Sorry?
Pass.
Pass? That is a non-answer.
No, I think it was such a pleasure talking to Sir Mark, because I think we had a conversation at lunch, and we are as one in what matters, which is you work as hard as you can, you do the best you can, and then you need a bit of luck on the top. That's about it, really.
Okay.
It's not about talent. That's the thing is, for anybody, I was going to say, if there's anyone here under 30, this is some advice, but no, that's not. Oh, there's one person.
No, give that. John, that was
Jason,
one of my
you are
questions.
not under 30. Go to your room.
That was one of my questions. You have to answer that question
Which
now. What advice would you dispense to a young person who's in the beginning of their career?
Well, definitely, I say to all my kids, you've got to do something you love. Because if you do something you love, A, you'll be happy, and B, you stand a chance of also being extremely rich. Because if you think of people who like Elton John or, Tom Stoppard are all doing things they really care about. They've all got plenty of money as well. You never should be a wage slave. That's a terrible idea. And in fact, I was doing a show in Edinburgh last year, and this guy said to me, how do I make £1 million? And I said, well, that's the way to do it. Do something you love. And I said, do you love what you do? And he went a bit quiet. And I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a store manager at Tesco. I said, do you love that? And he said, is this being recorded? And I said, yes, it is. He said, yes, I love it very much. Anyway, afterwards we're in the pub, and I said, what would you really like to do? And he said, I'd really like to be a paramedic. And it so happened my wife's cousin, Lou, who is a chief paramedic, was there in the audience as well. And she was saying, I can help you do that job. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it.
Does anyone want to go into TV?
I wouldn't advise it. It's horrible at the moment. No, but it's, I think that's what does it for me. I like doing things that make people more cheerful. That's what I like doing. And Mark is similar. We give people a lot of entertainment. And I was embarrassed for at least 10 years that all my friends were doctors and bankers and lawyers and things, and I just made silly jokes. But it's a lovely thing. Unless you're a doctor, I think making people laugh for a living or giving them any sort of entertainment, music or writing books is a wonderful thing to do. And I advise all of you to start doing it as soon as possible.
Okay, what's the most important event in your career?
It's this, Joanne.
Oh, God.
It is.
That was horrible. Terrible question.
A huge bigging up of the giant BAFTAs and So I'll tell you the reason I've got 10 BAFTAs, which is true, is that only 4 of them are proper BAFTAs. And one year, award ceremonies make a lot of money for people, okay? And the rule with award ceremonies is they're inversely proportional to the worth of the profession, okay? So the more worthless the profession, the more award ceremonies they have, all right? So you never see an awards for brain surgeons. I've never heard of one. But advertising have about 3 a week, you know? And they decided they were going to cash in by having a BAFTA award for advertising. So what you do is every ad that is sent in from all over the world is charged, you know, £200 entry fee. They took the Royal Albert Hall. Every table you take costs you £10,000. So making massive amounts of money. And it just happened to be my year. And I won on that night at the Royal Albert Hall 6 BAFTA awards in the same evening. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been booed by the Albert Hall, but it's very uncomfortable, and it started after the 4th one. And by the 6th BAFTA award, people were literally spitting and shouting and screaming and stamping. It's almost a riot. So that's why I've got 10 BAFTA awards. And BAFTA have since become so embarrassed about it that they've pretended it never happened. So if you look this up online, it is not on their website, but it really did happen to me.
So was it winning a BAFTA the first time that was the most important event in your career? This is a serious question.
Well, the thing is, if you worked in advertising, I worked there for 10 years and I won a ridiculous number of prizes, and it sort of cured me of it, you know. So I won the first 3 years, I won everything. And then suddenly, like a portcullis came down, I didn't win a single prize for 10 years. And that sent me into a terrible midlife crisis because I couldn't understand. I hadn't got any worse. But then I thought, did I deserve all the awards I won when I was winning them? And I thought, no, not really. And I don't deserve the ones that I haven't won. And eventually you get out of that because, as I think it was Baudelaire who said, awards are an invention of the devil. They're very bad for you because you should go to work because you're doing work. My favorite word in English is autotelic, which means worth doing for its own sake, okay?
Oh, wow.
You shouldn't be doing anything for other people's approval. It's absolutely infantile to worry about what other people think of you. You should do the right thing and then take your chances.
Okay.
So what I care about, the thing I'm most proud of, is I'm still married to the same person that I married to 33 years ago. And I not only like, but I not only love, but I like all my children. And that's hard. That's much harder than working. Being a dad is the hardest thing.
What's your best marriage advice?
Well, probably Mark.
John's never asked these questions.
I think Mark would probably say don't, but I think, well, okay, so what I think about marriage is we all think we want to get what we want, and you don't in life. What I believe is that you get what you need. That's the thing. And if you're lucky and you're listening, it's like children, you know. Everybody thinks the way to deal with children is to tell them what to do. It's absolutely not that. The children are fine without you, think. As long as they don't have to eat, the thing to do with children is to be nice to them as much as you can. And the nicer you are to them, the better they'll get. That's the simple thing. And the same with marriage is we all think, there's a famous survey they did years ago where they asked newly married couples what it was that really irritated them about their other half, right? And those of you who are married will know this. We call it the charge sheet, you know, just to say, why haven't you parked the car? Well, sorry, I made And another thing, you drink too much. Well, you fucking drink too much, if you may say. And it goes up and up, and suddenly you realize there's 40 things about the other person you can't stand. So they'd ask the newlyweds, and of course it's very charming in those days. Oh, he drinks a little bit much, he's so funny and all that. And they let them go. And the ones that lasted 30 years, they asked them the same question, what is it really irritates you about the other person? And the list was exactly the same, but both of them had learned to live with it. So that's really what it's about. And if you're listening with marriage and children, you know, like, the thing is, we all think in life it's somebody else's fault. You know, my boss's fault, it was my parents who did this to me, or my children are mad, what can I do? Or it's my school. We all think it's somebody else's fault. And actually, the one journey in life is take responsibility for all of your life and fix yourself. That's what I honestly think. I mean, that's quite a far out thing to say in a comedy venture, but that's what I think. That's the one journey. Ultimately, you're here on your own and you need to fix yourself and stop blaming other people. And that's marriage to a T, which is everybody gets divorced because they think the other person's crazy. But actually, half of you is crazy. It's both of you are crazy in different ways, and you need to kind of find a way of seeing that. It's what we do at the QI
What's the
office.
first item on the charge list for you?
What?
The marriage charge list. So what is it about Sarah which makes you the
No, I'm
most
an
insane?
enlightened person, Joanne. No, my wife is perfect. Is this being recorded? Yes. Oh, she's so lovely. She's so lovely. What a gorgeous woman. I forget her name for a moment, but
It must be something trivial.
no, she's managed to cure the lateness and no, I really, we're very lucky. We spent 10 years shouting at each other, and eventually it's calmed down a bit now, so it's pretty good.
Well, shouting is good. It shows that you care. Okay, this is so prosaic, but I've never really asked you.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies? Do you have any hobbies?
Next question.
No hobbies.
No, well, I don't really. I used to ski a lot, and then Harry, my son, broke his back, and I sort of went off it. We've got a boat. I like that. But no, this is the thing. I like what I do so much. My work is my hobby. And with QI, for example, if I get any spare time, all I do is go and research asparagus or hedgehogs. Or I can't help it. It's like, did anyone see the Swift guy on Swifts today? So I have to get this book because I researched Swifts for the S series of QI.
My God,
and
wow.
because everything we do at QI, I know more about Swifts than anyone in the world, except, well, the fucking guy's just written the book about them. I'm now number 2 again on Swifts. Because I really worked hard on Swifts. They're really amazing birds, as you will know if you've seen them talk. So no, I
Okay.
don't really, but cooking, yes, and
Oh, you cook.
yes, I love cooking.
Okay. What's your best dish?
I don't really, I just keep moving, keep on. Swedish meatballs is pretty good, I think. Yeah.
Okay. What's the best book you've read in the past year?
In the past year, there's a very interesting book that my son Harry recommended to me called The Way of the Superior Man. It sounds awful, but it isn't. It's by a guy called David Dade, is American, and it's about people of all genders and so on getting in touch with their masculinity and femininity. It sounds incredibly unpromising, but it's a life-changing book. It really is. And it's a kind of sensible version. Anyone ever read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? So I read that. Well, I read it because I was interviewing an actor, and I like to get on with the actors I work with. So I said, what are you reading at the moment? He said, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I said, how pathetic, how sad, what a weird woo-woo new age book. And he said, no, believe me, it's changed my life. I said, really? He said, you have to read this book. So I read this book. And I thought, well, this is not going to work, is it? But one of the things, it was written by a man for men, really. Poor chap's got divorced because obviously his wife didn't read the book. But one of the things it says, a hint to men, is change the light bulbs before she asks. I thought, why would anyone, what does that even mean? But we lived in this really lovely flat in Fulham, and we had an octagonal hall which had architects' strip lights all around it, 9 of them. Well, octagonal, so 8 of them it was, yeah. And so she was off at work, and I went to the cupboard and changed all these 8 strip lights. And when she came back, it was ablaze with light. And she literally fainted with pleasure, and we had sex immediately all night. I'm not kidding. It's a fantastic workshop manual.
No, is that a serious book recommendation?
Well, yeah, both of those are. I mean, it's yeah. No, I. So I was telling a bloke after this. I was so excited by this thing that I went to Australia to do some New Zealand beef and lamb commercials with a very nice Australian guy called Lionel. And Lionel's very dry, very tall, very successful guy. And he said, the thing about my wife is she's got this fucking cleaner. And she says, this cleaner's no bloody good. And every time I come home from work, she says, you won't believe what the fucking cleaner's done today. She hasn't cleaned the avocado dishes, and she hasn't fucking done the skirting boards or anything. And Lionel said, what I say? I said, well, sack the bitch. I never liked her. Why don't you fucking sack her? And then she starts throwing saucepans at me. So I said, what you need to do, Lionel, is that's not what women want. They don't, when women ask for advice, they don't want advice, they want a hug and to be told they're marvelous. So Lionel said, I don't see how the fuck that'd work, but I'll try it out. So the next day at work, I said, did she complain about the cleaner? He said, fucking right, she complained about the cleaner. Fucking coward. Forgotten to do the espresso machine and fuck knows what. So she started ranting on about it, and I said, darling, you're so beautiful when you're angry. And she goes, what? He says, you are the sexiest, most beautiful thing in the world, and I love you. She said, I'm a terrible actor, John, but apparently she bought it. So it's a happy marriage. She's still married. It's great.
There's a grain of truth in that ridiculous anecdote. Okay.
I love you when you're angry, Joanne.
I've never gotten
Isn't she
angry
gorgeous,
at you,
ladies and
John.
gentlemen? One for Joanne, please. Thank you very much.
This is the funnest interview I've ever done on this stage. Totally unprepared. I literally wrote these questions about an hour ago. Okay, John, I'm going to ask you a serious question. I know you're going to answer in a jokey way, but I'm still going to try. What's on your bucket list?
Okay, so a lot more travel. I think I need to go and have a proper trip to Japan. I've only been to part of South America, Brazil, and I really want to write my books now. I've got 4 science fiction books that I've been putting off for 32 years that I need to get down to be perfectly honest. And I really want to try stand up because I was talking to Alan Davis years ago about what's the worst thing. I think it was it was Sean Locke. That's right. When Sean Locke, do you know Sean Locke? Very funny guy, one of my good friends, and died very recently. And he was talking about the worst thing that had ever happened to him on a stage. And I said, oh, what's that, Sean? He said, well, I was very new and very young, and it was going very, very badly. And in the front row there was a woman in a wheelchair. And as I got more and more deeply into this terrible act, somehow, suddenly, she managed to get herself out of the wheelchair, onto the floor, and managed to somehow get out of the exit.
Oh, my God.
You know, she didn't want to make a fuss, you know?
Oh, my God, John. Okay, stand up. We're waiting for it. Okay, now on that note, we are now going to introduce our special surprise. And all I'm going to say is that the apple did not fall far from the tree in terms of the ability and talent to entertain. But in a moment, we're going to welcome Harry Lloyd, John's son, to the stage. And he featured in EA Festival #1. And he called me a couple days ago and said, hey, I'm in town. Well, not exactly. I'm in the UK because he lives in Amsterdam. How about I come over and play a couple songs? So we're going to now make way for Harry, but he'll be up in a couple of minutes.
Should we move the chairs? Thank you, darlings. You're all marvelous. Oh, marvelous. This is better than the...